Legends of Runeterra, the 1920s cartoon experts.
Legends of Runeterra, the 1920s cartoon experts. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Runeterrable Radio. I am Blevins, and joining me today, as always, is Saucy Mailman. What's up, buddy?
Hey, dude, how's it going?
It's going well. We had so many good openings for the start of the show. I just I had to pick one, or else I think we would have been talking about Insane Clown Posse for another 5 hours. But Saucy, we are not alone today, are we?
No.
Why don't you talk to us about our guest that we have today?
So I'm excited about this show because I get to hang out with one of my longtime good buddies, and today we have the one and only Sir Von Willie Dills. How's it going, dude?
Dude, I'm excited to talk about a game that I've literally been playing for maybe a week now. With some experts. I'm definitely going to have to ask some questions here because I'm in that phase where I'm very confused about a lot of interactions.
Uh-huh.
I was streaming it the other day, and I literally got to like maybe an hour into the stream, and I was like, guys, I think I have to play Hearthstone again because my brain is hurting. It's too much thinking.
My brain is melting.
Yeah, it's hard for me to play this game in long sittings because of that. It's just so much. I'm just grinding so hard over everything.
Yeah,
but
no,
I'm having a great time.
I'm more excited about this show than a lot. Not just because we're friends, but also because I love getting the viewpoint of someone who is new to the game.
Yeah.
On a lot of topics, because those have been some of the more exciting episodes we had, like people that have just started playing versus, the pros who are master rank 2, who are experts. It's like getting a fresh perspective on a lot of things going on makes me happy.
Well, I was telling Blevins before the show too that I did not play before the expansion. So to me, there's no
super fresh
cards. Yeah, they like
everything's a new card.
Leona has existed my entire time playing Runeterra.
Yeah.
So I don't know a pre-Leona world. I don't know a pre-Aurelian Soul world. I don't, you know what I mean? Like these cards were there from day one for me.
Oh, believe me, there is no pre-Aurelian Soul world. I've been around forever.
Always. There's
Just
always
dormant.
been Aurelian Soul. Yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome. Which is awesome because we talk to all sorts of people on the show, and I'm trying to think if we've had like a fresh I don't know if we've had meat this fresh, Saucy.
Fresh meat.
which is awesome.
Be careful with me, guys. This is my first time, okay?
We're I feel like we're pretty nice.
No.
But no. It is interesting because we do talk to a lot of high level like pro players and people who are in the community and people who have been around as long as us, which is literally since it was announced at the Riot 10-year event. So really cool to get that perspective, and also to get the perspective of someone who comes from a podcasting background as well as Hearthstone, which Saucy and I are both, of course, have
that's
have
how
come
I got
from
to
as
know
well.
Saucy. Was so when I discovered Saucy's stream was when I was starting to really take Wild more seriously, and you were basically one of it's a fairly small community of streamers. You've got like your Raffles and Get Meowths and stuff, and you got your Saucys, and so I started watching him because he was playing. I've actually found not a lot of the Wild streamers are really trying to play high competitive decks. Most of them are kind of memeing. And you were definitely in that camp, and that was where I wanted to be. So I watched your stream quite a lot, and we got to know each other there. But yeah, Hearthstone for me, I've been playing that since closed beta, since you had to buy your keys on eBay and stuff.
Yeah,
I remember doing that.
Yeah. For people who aren't familiar with this or with you, give us just like who you are, where you come from, your gaming background.
So podcasting background is when I used to listen to The Instance quite a bit, which is a World of Warcraft podcast when I was playing a lot of WoW. And then I joined the guild that they had, which is called AIE, and that's, for people who aren't familiar with that, it's the largest existing guild in World of Warcraft. At one point, they changed the rules so that you could only have up to 1,000 members in a guild. So we were so big that what we had to do was break into like sub guilds, and then somebody wrote an add-on so that we could link all of the chats of all those sub guilds.
Oh,
so we
nice.
could still have our one, we call it the green wall.
That's awesome.
So we could still, because it's like so many people online at all times, it's like it just never stops. It's like watching like Ninja's Twitch stream or something like that.
Yeah, it's just incoherent babble.
Yeah. But so I started doing a podcast literally only based on that guild. It was called the AIE podcast. All we talked about was what was happening in that guild in one game. So this is how niche like podcasting can get. We're not only talking about one video game. I'm talking about one guild in one video game. Granted, largest guild and largest MMO, but so at some point, Randy who was a co-host of the Instance, got hired by Blizzard, and Scott tapped me and another podcaster to be the new co-host. So once I joined the Instance, it was like all of a sudden I had a much larger following. And when Hearthstone came out, I was like instantly just extremely excited. I was ready to rock. And so me and Garrett and Jocelyn started the Angry Chicken basically like day one Hearthstone. I think we were a show even before the game was really playable. And because of that, and because of the Instance and stuff, we hit at the right time. So we became like the #1 show there. And I was on that show for about 5 years, and then things kind of got to a point where I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, it's a grind.
I mean, it is, but it's also like things change. There's a lot of reasons that I don't really need to get into, but it just kind of felt to me like that it wasn't something I wanted to continue putting my time and effort into.
Yeah.
Now I still play a ton of Hearthstone. I still stream it. And actually that's one of the reasons why I started playing Runeterra this recent, about a week and a half ago. I hit Legend and Wild and Standard this season in Hearthstone.
Nice.
And I basically was just like, I think I'm done. I don't really
what else is there to do?
Reach the peak of the mountain.
I was like, I don't really want to play Hearthstone anymore because I don't want to grind to like high Legend in both. That seems silly. So I was like, oh, let's play this Runeterra game. And instantly I was like, oh yeah, oh, this is good. I'm gonna like this. So I've been playing quite a bit since then.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you talk about niche podcasts. I also have hosted an extremely niche podcast. I used to, my very first podcast was a podcast about the Magic the Gathering scene, specifically in Buffalo, New York. So
wow,
I know. I mean, that's a sidebar about podcasting. Like that's those. And I'm sure you probably feel the same way. Like those are some of the both the best and also worst shows that you can do, right? Because it's like you're so like you know exactly who you're talking to, quite literally. Like you're like,
Bill. Let me tell you about
right, exactly. Yeah.
And I actually the first show that I actually ever did when I was just wanted to get into podcasting. Was a show called On the List, and we were a show because I played in punk bands in San Francisco, and so the show was literally it was 3 of us, each one of us would bring 2 songs from a local band, and we would play them for each other. And because these are like unsigned local bands, we could play them on the show, and it wasn't like we were breaking ASCAP or BMI rules, right? And then we would like try to sell our friends on why this was like a sweet band, and then it got to the point where we were like, okay, we were in like a couple zines or something, and we called ourselves On the List. Yeah, we called ourselves On the List podcast because basically the idea was if you put us on the list at your show, we will come and see your band. And so we would just go see like random bands, but basically it was just, I boiled down to just Bay Area, like punk and hardcore bands. And that was it. That was the whole show. We never deviated from that. We never talked about like a band from New York. It was, like Concord was as far as we got out of the city, basically. And we had a good following. We had a lot of people who were really loyal to the show. So
Yeah, so this is actually my entire plan was to bring Willie on here because I knew his backstory, so I could talk about my new podcast, the Teemo Tabernacle. We only talk about Teemo in Legends of Runeterra
Nice.
specifically.
Nice.
That niche market is now mine.
This week in Poison Puff Caps.
Yeah.
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 Let me tell you about the Gospel of Puff Caps.
There's
Well-
10 of them now. 15 now.
I'm starting
Increments of 5.
I'm starting a podcast series where each episode is just me talking about my single opponent that I played against that week.
Yeah,
So
the one game that you played.
yeah, I'm playing one game a week, and the podcast is going to be about that one game.
Just a high level breakdown. of
Yeah,
that
not,
one
no,
game.
not
Like,
even that. It's going to be about the life of the
Mid-level.
player.
Oh,
It's
okay.
gonna, yeah, it's gonna be
Oh,
so much.
okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Serial. I already got picked up by
Okay.
NPR. So so I need
Yeah,
to.
this
I
guy
need-
emotes like a serial killer, so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
yeah, and
We know all about him. How many Elise emotes can you spam?
how many times can you play the same Zephyr Sage over and over and over again?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's times like these why I'm very glad that we have the show notes, because I don't know where I was going with any of this or where we were. No, it's good to, have someone who has a similar background and like the Hearthstone background. And what's really interesting, and I guess you could call it ironically, but it's a breath of fresh air to hear that, like, you say, hey, I still play a ton of Hearthstone, but also I picked up Legends of Runeterra and I like Legends of Runeterra because, despite popular belief, chat and listeners, you can like and play more than one game. It's okay.
Yep.
You don't have to be siloed into one thing.
I think card games, it's funny because I've found that with people who play card games, they are very defensive and protective
Yes.
of the game they like.
Yeah.
And they will crap on your game as much as they can
Yep.
in attempt to convince you why your game sucks and their game is superior.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it doesn't matter which game they play; they all do this. Like
Yeah.
Originally I found this with Magic players when you'd say I play Hearthstone, they would
Oh,
be
yeah.
like, Hearthstone guy, huh? So you're an idiot.
Yes.
Yeah, no matter what.
Yes. Young baby here. I see.
No matter, there's always that. Oh, you play Magic, you must like a lot of non-games, huh?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Well,
There's
I mean,
always
that's
something.
Kind of
I mean,
true,
this is the thing, though. It's like every game has its positives and negatives.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I think this is why I enjoyed them all. So for a while there, I was just playing Magic Arena and Hearthstone because they kind of had offsetting cycles.
Yeah.
So like the metagame in Hearthstone would be a little bit stale, and what do you know? There's a new set in Magic Arena, right?
Yep.
And it just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, I felt like Magic Arena was just too hard for me to grind without spending a lot of money. To
Yep.
feel like I was
Yeah.
able to play the decks I wanted to play. So ultimately, I just kind of slowed down on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Runeterra, I kind of found the things I like about both, and I found that this game has a pretty sweet little free-to-play model
Yeah.
that makes it a lot more feasible in my eyes to have a continued interest in this. Like this could be my second game because I'm kind of thinking I'm not really leaving Hearthstone. Hearthstone is still my favorite game to play. But this has all the things that I like about Hearthstone, and it's got some things that I like about Magic, and then it took some of the things that I hate about Magic and got rid of those.
Yeah.
So getting
getting
mana screwed doesn't happen.
Yep.
In fact, just the opposite. If you don't do anything for 3 turns, well, you're gonna do a lot of stuff on turn 4.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. It's excellent.
You can be rewarded for doing nothing.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's so great because missing curve in card games is always so punishing. And to be able to be like, oh no, it's fine. I didn't spend that mana then, but I'm gonna spend it now. Is just huge. And then, like I said, the free-to-play model is insane. I started playing, I was like, okay, I don't have a lot of stuff. And then I started playing, I was like, damn, they're giving me a lot of stuff. It just felt like instantly I had options I could build decks, and the free-to-play decks they gave me were decent starting points, where a lot of times in other games they give you this deck and you're like, oh, this has no chance.
Yeah, it's
this
just
is nothing.
dog shit.
Yeah. But that didn't feel that way. Also the fact that every deck kind of has to be built around up to 6 champions. It's like you already kind of start from a place where
Mm-hmm.
I can't out budget you because I have
Yeah.
20 champions in my deck.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So yeah, there's just a lot to like about this being like a game that I could kind of have as my alternate, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is really awesome, and it's a nice perspective to kind of go back to what we were saying before. You know, pretty much everyone we've had on so far has either been like, if not a high level player, then like someone who's like as ingrained in the community as we are, right? Which is like about as ingrained as you could be. You know, we've had casters on, we've had players, different community members, podcasters, etc. And it's just refreshing to see that, like, hey, you know what? Hearthstone's still my favorite game. I've done Hearthstone for years. I still like Hearthstone. Runeterra is also cool. It's just a cool thing. I just want to, I gotta point that out.
I could at one point totally I could see myself transitioning 100% into Runeterra because at one point in my life I thought I was always going to have a WoW subscription. Like I just for the rest of my life I will spend $15 a month to have this thing, whether I'm playing it a lot or not. And then eventually I like just kind of was done. So that could happen with Hearthstone. I don't think I'll ever be done with card games. So it's
I totally feel that.
I enjoy. So
I mean, there was times I've said that about both Magic and I've said that about Hearthstone.
Yep.
Like I've said before, I'm like, there's never a time I'm gonna stop playing Hearthstone, and then I just kind of like you hit Legend enough times every month, and I was just like, I was looking for something new, and same thing. I'm curious. So, I mean, you play a lot of Hearthstone, like you said. What are some things you don't specifically like about Legends of Runeterra? What are things you think you could do better as a game?
Well, there's things that I'm not used to, but I don't know if I necessarily don't like them yet. Like there's it's gonna take some time for me to like hate certain things, right? But, definitely I think I guess it's because I'm coming more from like in card games Magic, so the priority thing is still a little bit funky to me because like I'll declare my attackers and I'll want to cast a spell like a burst spell or a fast spell, but I'm like, I don't know if they're going to declare blockers, so I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to do this.
Right.
Because if they don't, then it just now we're attacking, and I'm like, I want you saying no blockers to be an action.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But instead, it's like nothing happens. I'm like, I wanted to buff and kill you, and now I can't. Right. So there's that, but that's a small nitpicky thing, and it's just part of the game mechanics, and you just eventually come to accept it, right? So
as someone who felt the exact same way because of years of Magic ingrained, you get over it, or you learn out of it, right? Like now I don't even think about it. I'm like, oh, okay, it's
part of strategy, and
right?
That's fine,
Yeah, it is something that takes. I mean, that was actually, I think, the thing I hated. That specific thing when I first started playing made me the most angry. But then like, it's actually something just recently, a few weeks ago, I was having a very long conversation about that on stream because I like played my mushrooms with Teemo beforehand, even though I could have bluffed it to like force him to do bad blocks. I'm like, I physically need this to happen because he's not gonna block. Like if my opponent's good, if I assume my opponent's good, they'll know not to block so that it passes priority. So it's a weird thing, but I do like there is still that Magic player in me that's like I want that to be like a priority passing moment. Like okay, no blocks, now what do I do? So I get that.
It's just I guess that's how it feels it's supposed to go. But the more you play this game, the more you realize it's just not part of the deal, and it does add strategy. Like it's a weird thing where it's different strategically, right?
Yeah.
Like people talk about like Hearthstone has less strategy than like a game of Magic. And I would argue that in a game of Hearthstone, more decisions are made in an average game of Hearthstone than in an average game of Magic.
Yeah.
An average game of Magic will have more maybe complex decisions, but just the sheer number of board states that you run into in like a regular game of Hearthstone, because the board is just constantly changing, right? Magic, a lot of times, like they call them permanents because you put a card down and it might not leave the board. It's here forever.
Yep.
And I think that Runeterra does a really good job of that too, where because damage is kept, things like that. Like you do see that fluctuation in board states where the board 5 turns ago is just absolutely. I don't even remember what it was 5 turns ago.
Yeah,
now it's changed so much. So it's like I feel like people look for reasons to like say this isn't strategic, but it is. It's just you're not used to it, right? So
yep. And also it's like the simplification of things too is like, oh well, Magic gets reduced down to like, okay, there's 2 4/4s on the field. Okay, we're not attacking this turn, right? Because it's like, you know, a board stall. Where like there's actually not anything happening. Where with Hearthstone, it's like, you know, your opponent can't interact, but you have to plot out how you're attacking, you know, the units and minions and how you're trading off and all that. And I mean, you can see it when you like if you watch a good player play against an unskilled player, someone who doesn't know, like, you know that it is not a like game of luck, right? Because you're just
I mean, there is a lot
crushing.
of RNG, but
Sure,
RNG is, you know, similar like poker, and where you're trying to put yourself in the best position to succeed. And Hearthstone is kind of like Hearthstone's like a game of tug of war, where it's like I pull, now you pull, and it's like just who kind of like does better with their allotted amount of pulling time. And like Runeterra is like an actual tug of war where it's like we're both pulling at the same time. And you know, but in the end, it's like still all about, you know, allotting your resources properly to you know, build the biggest board or take advantage of stats and tempo and things. But you know, that's another thing about this game that I guess maybe I don't like now, but I love too. But so it's a love and hate thing. The fact that I do things on your turn, not just in response. Like in Magic, I do things only in response.
right.
Yeah.
In Runeterra, I'm actively participating in every turn, right?
Right.
Yep.
So there's no time off. And it makes me tired much faster playing the game than Hearthstone, where like Hearthstone, this is one of the reasons why it became such a popular streaming game. Is you literally take your turn and then you're like, all right, chat, what's going on with you? You know? And you just tune out, you zone out. And you cannot do that in Runeterra. You are just like, I'm just hands over head, you know, staring, trying to figure out what my opponent's doing. And plus, when I don't know all the cards, I don't know what to play around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's it's that can be rough, but it's, again, this is kind of the part that I like about a new card game too, is where everything's fresh, everything's new.
Yeah.
Every single game I learned something.
Experiencing. Yeah. That's like the most exciting part. I mean, that's why we love new expansions too, right? Everything's fresh and new. So it's the exact same thing, except on an exponential level, because literally, like, Yasuo is as new to you as Aurelian's Soul. So it's just like,
like, I remember I was like, what is this? Elise? Oh, they're gonna make a lot of spiders. And I guess that's just been going on forever, you know. But to me, I was like, oh, never seen this before. And actually coming in at this time, it seemed to me like, oh, well, everybody plays Leona and Soul, right? But really, it's just because it's the new toys in the toy box.
Exactly.
So
So of the new toys in the toy box, I'm curious, so far from cards you've played, what have been your favorite and least favorite cards of the game? Just a few.
So the very first time I streamed was my first time doing an expedition. So a lot of the time I spent playing the game early on was just playing against the AI and just kind of figuring the game out that way, which I love that it exists in this, because you can't really do that. Like Hearthstone has that practice mode, but you don't earn anything from doing it. You don't. It just feels like a waste of time. Like here, it felt like I was using my time wisely playing the AI. Like, okay, let me learn how these mechanics work without a pressure situation,
without being like embarrassed and whatnot.
Yeah. And then then before I even played ladder, I went and I played an expedition, because I was like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of cards. This is probably the best thing for me to do. And they've been giving me expedition tokens the whole time.
Out the ass.
I was like, I have like 4 of these, and because like, you know, so I played, and the first one I drafted a Soul, and I was like, well, this card, I mean, this thing's huge. And in my like arena background is telling me like a 10-mana card, that's not good.
Right.
But I was like looking at the other ones, and I was like I think the other ones were, God, I want to say like Katarina and like Garen or something like that. So it's like stuff I'd already played with, and I was like, well, I'm gonna pick the thing I haven't played with. And so instantly, and then as soon as I got to 7 wins in that expedition.
Nice.
And Soul was sick. Like every time I played it, it was like, oh my god, like it was leveling up, and I was playing free celestial cards, and I was like, okay, this card's insane. So then instantly I went and I built a Soul deck.
Nice.
I built this is like the only deck that I've like really built myself is a Leona Soul deck.
Okay.
And I guess that's actually a meta thing, but
yeah, it's a good deck.
Yeah.
Good archetype.
I don't know if my version is good, but
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, but it's got like the 8/8 that stuns 2 things and stuff. Like it's, you know what I mean. So it's got good cards in it. So that instantly was like what I'm drawn to, and now I'm realizing that like every deck I have is Leona something. So I guess Leona is like my favorite champion right now. I have like Leona Yasuo. I have Leona. What's the other one? Leona Diana. Is that the one?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
I have like 5 different decks that are Leona something.
She's flexible. That's like one of the cool things. She's like vanilla enough to where she can fit in a lot of things, but she has a clear like goal in mind of what she's doing. So it's not just like a well-stat like Vi is just like a well-statted good, you know, minion, but Leona actually, you know, does something. You actually have to put things in that makes sense and synergize with her.
Right.
So she's solid. Like the Leona package itself is good.
Yeah, it's easy to see. Like you just go, okay, Daybreak, type that in.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. And also the Daybreak cards are just kind of good on their own, whether or not you get Leona going. Like just playing a 3/3 on turn 1, pretty good, right?
Or a 3/6 on turn 2.
3/6 on 2. Yeah. When you curve out, it's like you just kind of feel like, you know, and it's mid-range decks are something that I think are easy to wrap your head around when you don't know a lot about a game, right? It's like, okay, I'm just putting stuff on the board and I'm taking good trades. I get that. So when it comes to like more nuanced stuff, like I tried to play the Ezreal deck where you end up like OTKing them at the end with the gems and stuff. But I was just like, I'm so lost. I don't know when I'm supposed to use these resources.
That's a really tough deck to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I need more time with the game to understand, like, because I just didn't understand how much damage can I freely take before then I set up to kill you, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of like number thresholds with that. It's like the Emusives deck that Blevins came up with. Like the magic number in that deck, you have to get them to 15, and then you can win. But getting them to that first 15 is actually kind of difficult. But if you get them to 15, you're like, all right, I got this in the bag.
Yeah, just need to make my moose, make it elusive, and rally. It's great.
So I have a question, by the way. You cannot get over 20 health on your Nexus, right? Okay.
Not currently.
Because I haven't tried. I just figured you couldn't because I've never seen anybody at 21. But you know, again, one of the things I'm just like, I still don't know.
Yep, they cap it, which is probably a good thing. I think. You know, length of game is definitely something that is a factor that they think about, and they should. I think. And I think that also goes to like the whole like, hey, there isn't like the extra like 2 or 3. Essentially passes of priority that there would be in Magic. It's like there's kind of a back and forth to like establish the stack of spells, and then they all happen, right? It's not like you're going back and forth and then it's like, okay, one resolves a back and forth, one resolves a back, because it's like, then games just end up artificially taking 20 minutes longer, and it's like I kind of just, you know, that's just not the world we live in. It's not, you know, it's not the 90s anymore. I want to live in. Exactly. I you know, I've had games like, I mean, Hearthstone certainly, and like Clash Royale, where like, you've kind of ruined or improved, depending on what you think about it, my like game playing experience, where it's like, you know, back even in like League of Legends and Dota originally, it's like, there's gonna be a 40-minute game. Okay, great, I'm ready to fucking grind and super sweaty tryhard this. Where now it's like, if any game keeps me for over 15 minutes, I'm probably gonna pass on it, right? Like,
well, in League you spend 20 minutes before you even start really playing, right? Like you're just like,
you're
just
for sure
leveling and hitting, you know, last hitting creeps and stuff forever.
Before you even get into the game, you have to spend 20 minutes.
Right. You have to build your sheets, and you have to all this stuff.
I think it's a good thing though too, because there's a deck. I don't know if you were around for this period, Saucy, but there is a Druid deck that builds like 4,000 armor now.
Yeah. I've heard about the people getting really happy about
the
that.
line cracker druid. So you bees it, and then it gets really big attack because it doubles every time it takes damage, and then you put that 1 mana spell on it that gains armor based on attack value.
Yep.
And then you basically just do nothing the rest of the game.
You just sit there because you can't die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just stupid. And it's like getting over 30 life in Hearthstone, just dumb.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's I love to have that conversation with people about how limiting things in a game doesn't limit game design. So like limiting the maximum health for your Nexus actually opens up design to where you can make cards like Soul's Ascendant from Magic the Gathering, which is a 1 mana 1/1. Whenever something enters the battlefield, you gain a life. You could make cards like that in this game and it not be degenerate. Like it could just be a solid choice in aggressive metas. Whereas you can do degenerate things in Magic where you gain 5,000 life and just can't die.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like that 7 mana heal for 5 spell. It's like a burst spell. It gives you a Celestial. That card seems super broken, but with the fact that you can't get over 20 makes it. I mean, it's still really freaking good, but it's like
it's good.
It's really good. It's
but
five
it's also
mana.
Now it's not broken.
5 mana gain. Is it 7 mana? No,
it's 7.
It's
it's 5.
Yeah,
it's 5 mana, and it gives you a 7 cost spell.
Mana.
Yeah, it gives you a 7 cost Celestial. Yeah. It
those
also
are all good.
exactly. It also like it makes it so that you can have and I'll put air quotes here for podcast listeners, you can have an air quote combo deck, but it doesn't have to be infinite, right? Because like there's the difference between doing 20 damage in a turn and 500,000 it doesn't matter. 20 is infinite in this game. So like even if it's a technically limited combo, if it does 20, it is effectively infinite, right? Like so
it's like the Ezreal harrowing deck. It's like it's quote unquote infinite damage because you can get them 20 damage in a turn, because that's literally the only number that matters.
Right. Right. Well, and that also actually kind of relates to another topic that I had written down here from the AMA, that a lot of I don't know exactly who was on it. I know Riot Dovadigas was on, and he is part of I believe the design or balance team. And there was a couple other rioters on this AMA on Reddit. And they actually, Saucy, addressed the Tarek Playful Trickster interaction that we were so upset that they sad. Yeah, it was more sad, I think. Even though I literally when I said that they did that, my initial reaction was literally for about 15 to 20 seconds.
I get a text from Blevins like, they took this out of the game, blah blah blah. We had a moment.
Screaming into my phone, not realizing that there wasn't a call connected. Sorry, Grandma. But they mentioned this. I feel like I put it down here somewhere. Maybe did I forget to copy paste the one thing I wanted to mention?
Maybe we were just talking about it, but didn't write
We
it
definitely
down.
were. I'll find it really quick. But basically, I'll find the exact thing. But the TLDR is they nerfed the interaction between Tarek and here we go. Okay, so they basically asked about Tarek's ability, why did you nerf the interaction with Playful Trickster? And the response was, we knew that Tarek Playful Trickster combo, we knew about it, and we originally intended it to go live with Call of the Mountain. However, after some discussion among game design, the playtest team, and gameplay leadership, we decided that the opponent's experience was potentially too unfun. We want to ensure that both players are having fun in our game. Losing isn't very fun, but it's, of course, unavoidable in a 1v1 game. However, losing slowly and being trapped in a game is very unfun and avoidable. We want games to have a clear winner and to end very quickly in the Tarek Playful Trickster combo. Basically doesn't do that, and they say some more things. But basically, like, it's not that the combo was too strong, right? Because like when we saw it, we talked about like this is interactable, it's disruptible. It's honestly, it might not even be good. Like,
it's got a lot of moving pieces.
Very clunky. It's easy to play around, or it's at least like very relatively simple to play around, but it's not the power level of it that's going into these discussions. And I think it's the experience of the player. And I think my original, like, I've got my tournament player spike goggles on, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't care about the filthy casuals. I just want to win, and I want to play the best decks, and I want the best decks to win every time. Now, for what it's worth, I didn't really have those goggles on as much with Runeterra, but in the past, I certainly have in Magic and in other games. It's just how I've been. And I think it's actually really, really not only made the game better for everyone, it's just made my perspective on the game it's improved it, because when you look at the game through that lens, you start to understand a lot of the decisions they make, and it kind of answers a lot of questions you might have, like, oh, hey, would you ever make something that has that can, do this? It's like, well, how fun is that to play? Like, not only how good is it, but how fun is it?
I think that's a really healthy way to be looking at design, because I felt for a long time that Hearthstone was refusing to do things that were fun. And I was like, it's really fun to do kind of like, people always make these arguments that like, oh, this new set, it's broken. And I'm like, yeah, but doing broken things is fun.
Yes.
That's why we play these games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you put in something that's broken, that's incredibly easy to do every single time, well, then it's a problem, right? It needs to feel like an accomplishment when you pull it off.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm actually not even familiar with the interaction you're talking about, but I assume it's somehow like you infinitely attack in a turn or something.
Yeah,
like
it's basically like it's not even that you do that either. That the problem,
you have to spend 4 mana every time you play the trickster, right?
Well, no, because the way that Tarek works is that he'll copy the spell.
Okay.
So
but you have to pay 4 the first time, and then he copies it.
So the way that he used to work is that you would essentially attack with him, cast Playful Trickster on him, you would get another attack, and then when you attacked with him again, it would copy Playful Trickster for free on the other unit that he was attacking with.
Okay, and then then you just
and you would keep doing that over and over again,
and they can't die. So
right, if he's leveled, they can't die. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I can see, but that's slow and grindy.
It's slow and grindy, and it's not even that. Like, again, I don't think that that's necessarily even good because of how interactable it is, and like if you've played with Tarek, you kind of understand that, like, he's got this gigantic bullseye on his head at all times, right?
Yeah. You have to target things 7 times.
Yeah.
That takes a long time.
Well,
dude.
I think the problem is that, like, once you get to that point, like, Tarek has 2, or if he's leveled 3 power, and then maybe you're attacking with something else, right? But, like, you're just kind of in this loop. And, like, Saucy, you have kind of created these types of loops before with infinite puff caps and like the new infinite Zephyr Sages, and even the old infinite Zephyr Sages, where like you are not only doing something literally infinitely, you're also like the Zephyr Sages, it's like it's just making a bunch of 4/4s and filling your board.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like I played that deck today, and it's just like, okay, I got a bunch of 4/4s. Now what do I do? Okay, I attack. Great. Okay.
Did it.
and then it's like, okay, they kill my 4/4s. I guess I'm playing them again. And it's like, I play a 4/4, it passes to them, they pass back. I play a 4/4, that pass, and like, it just creates a bunch of like extra steps. That's just like, okay, the game's over. And like, yes, your opponent can concede. You can concede, but like, I don't think that's what they want their solution to be. Like, oh, well, you're losing. Like, they don't want to have like, Garen come up and be, or like Aurelion Sol pop on the screen and says,
"You realize you're losing, fool. You should concede now."
Like, that would be funny, but I don't think that's what they want to have as their solution to these types of things. So they just got rid of it. So
yeah, it's like playing against Odd Warrior in Hearthstone, where you're like, well, I'm never going to deal enough damage to kill you, so I don't know why we're still here.
Yeah. I guess I'll just keep playing just in case, but there's
maybe,
realistically no way I can win. Yeah.
Maybe you DC, I'm playing like a Weenie Zoo deck, and I'm never going to deal 80 damage to you.
Well, that's like what they're trying to avoid, right? Is like there can be points where you've lost the game, right? But they want where you've theoretically lost the game and then where you have actually physically lost, and they want to reduce the time between those 2 points as much as possible.
Yeah, where it's more clear that you as a player know, okay, I probably can't win from here.
Well, not even that it's not clear. It's that it, like, yeah, you want it to be like ambiguous, or like it is actually close for a very long time until the end, and like that one pivotal point, or like, okay, you've got once you've got that insurmountable advantage, the game ends extremely quickly. Right, where like in Magic, it's like, oh, you counter the first 3 spells. It's like, yeah, the game has been over since turn 4, but we kept playing.
So the deck that that first frustrated me to play against is a deck that I think highlights what you're talking about. Where I mean, I was frustrated losing to it, but the game was clearly like, okay, this thing happened and now it's over.
Yeah,
and it was the Thresh Aurelion Soul deck where they got the Aurelion Soul out really quickly. And I'm like, oh, I can't win now. But at least I like know it. Like I'm aware that I can't stop this 10-10 coming at my face, and now the infinite amount of celestial cards he's gonna generate that cost 0. So I'm out. I leave.
Yeah.
Because it's just obvious you did the thing. You did your thing, and now it happened.
Well,
and so I was frustrated to lose, but it wasn't like I spent 30 minutes after that point.
Right. Well, and even if you were like, I still got a chance, like you were going to die very quickly, whether you conceded or not, right? When that happened.
Yeah.
So
I get smashed in the face a couple times. Well, and then the thing too, this was my first discovery that apparently you can have 2 of the same champion.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, oh, it's like Magic where it's with a legendary, you can't have 2 of them. And then I realized, oh no, you can if you cheat them in. Got it.
Yep. Okay. You just got to be sneaky.
That is one of the like understated things I think about Legends of Runeterra, is that they have extremely elegantly navigated the sort of legend rule from Magic, where it's like, you don't just have the, like, they don't want you to naturally be able to play 2 champions out at the same time, right? Like, yes, you can cheat them in, you can do all the things that we all know, right? Like, Reanimate or whatever with Rekindler and other things, Thresh. But you're not just like, oh, well, I drew 2 A-Souls, so I guess I just have a second one in my hand that's rotting away. You get a spell, which is so cool. And this, of course, isn't new stuff, but it's just...
No, it was new to me, though.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. The first time it happened, I was like, what just happened? That card just changed. Nobody told me this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But it was pretty obvious once it changed and I read it. I was like, oh. And it was a moment of, that's a friggin' awesome way to handle this rule, right? Because it's like an existing spell that you can also have like in the game anyway, and it goes along with the champion. So it's like, oh, I actually have a useful card in my hand. Great.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, I don't know if we've ever actually really highlighted that, Saucy. So I'm glad that came up. It's just so cool, and just another one of those like little things that they did that's really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of things this game has done where it's like the first time I see it, I go, oh, well, that's clever. Why did nobody else think of that?
Yeah. The combat math, holy shit, that's the best.
I know.
That's just the best thing ever.
The thing that people still don't use, it always blows my mind. Well, I'm like, if you hover over this, you are dead.
Yeah.
When I watch high level, like I've watched a few streams now since I started playing, and the high level players use the hell out of that thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a free tool. It's like calculator in your math class, just being able to use it versus I'm gonna do this in my head and be wrong.
Yeah. Don't let your math teachers dictate. You will always have a calculator. You can always use it. You can always use Google. Your teachers are dumb. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, especially because there's like a lot of things that, and especially like because there are things that happen in combat that change combat math, like Darius leveling up, for instance, like that changes combat math completely.
Oh boy, people play around that very poorly.
Yes, they do. So yeah, that's another. I should make a YouTube video specifically on use the eye. You're not better than the eye, except for when you play Teemo and it doesn't work. Teemo bugs out the eye if you didn't.
I don't know why. It makes no sense.
I don't have Teemo yet, so I have yet to play a Teemo deck.
I wish I could donate you Teemos.
I did spend an initial $100 once I started playing. So if I wanted to make one, I could do it.
I was gonna say, for $100, you should be able to get almost like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so but I mean, like with any card game I play, I'm like, if I like this game, I'm gonna throw some money at it. Like,
Same.
I know I understand there's so many people out there who are like, this game, the free to play model is amazing, but I'm like, yeah, I know, but also it's a company that has to make money. So, if I like your product, I have no problem giving you money for it.
Right.
I've
But also,
never
I just
spent
like I
money
want to
on
be
a
able to
game
play
before.
that.
Have we had the conversation about how I'm a pro level League of Legends player yet on the show? I don't know if we have.
No,
No.
because we
So,
played in between the episodes.
So just like we were talking beforehand about like playing TFT coming from LOR because you know the champions and stuff. So I before Legend of Runeterra, I didn't play League. I'd always stayed away from that. So the other night, I decided to hang out with Blevins. If you guys don't know him, he's my podcast.
Hi, it's me,
host
the guy
here.
that's been talking this whole time in every
Yep.
episode.
So if you don't know him,
now.
he's here. Yep. So I was like, dude, let's play some. We just played some AI games because I don't know the game, but I'm like, I want to see how the champions translate, from League to LOR. Like, I don't know that Mystic Shot is just the spell that Ezreal casts and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I had not really played the game before. I dumped like $40 on the game to play a few AI matches. I'm like, I want Ezreal.
Yeah.
I want Teemo. I want Fizz. I'm just going and buying all my favorite champions.
All the
from
LOR
Legend
champs,
of Runeterra. Yep. I'm like, I like these ones. I want them now.
I would love to see if the champions that are in LOR have spiked in terms of sales. Like,
like the good ones.
Ooh,
yeah,
that'd be interesting.
That would make a lot of sense.
I'm curious because I definitely have bought champs that were like because they're in LOR 100%.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd love to see that. Like, if suddenly people are all like, "Yeah, the Lulu sales have gone
I mean,
up
I
now."
literally bought Lulu when she was revealed. I'm like, oh, she looks cool. Let me check out her kit in League. Oh, cool. I'm gonna play her. And then I don't even play League. I just wanted it.
Yeah.
But one of the only champions I ever really played in League was Ashe. So I know it worked the other way. I instantly was like, I'm gonna make an Ashe deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that happens
Ashe
a lot.
deck was actually pretty sweet, apparently.
Yeah, she's sweet.
Well, I know
I think Ashe is good right
people ask you all the time, Saucy. They're like, oh, well, what do you think if they made Ashe's W a card? And you're just like,
I'm like, sure.
I think it would be great.
Yeah, right.
But I think it's really cool.
Yeah, do it.
Well, because the League IP, I think just from what I've explored and basically come back to it from, I mean, back in 2010, there was some like IP development, but like it certainly wasn't where it is now. And I think it was more like it was just kind of there back then. It wasn't like a coherent thing. Now it's like, I mean, I don't want to say Blizzard levels because Blizzard literally has someone with the title Lore Master that, like, in my mind, lives in a vault. But like, it's kind of like people know that shit, and like, I have the freaking the Runeterra compendium thing, like, and there's some stories there, which is awesome. So
yeah,
it's now like really expanding it out, and with like LOR has
definitely. Yeah. We definitely see it a lot because I get people all the time like, oh, I refuse to play Demacia specifically because I hate Garen so much. And it's just like, I'm like, I don't have that background. I'm like,
you have no reference to that.
I'm like, cool. I guess you don't like Garen for some reason. Then they'll tell me the story of when X happened between him and Darius. I'm like, I don't. I'm just here to play cards.
Yeah.
No clue. So I wanted to. There was a couple other things from this Riot AMA.
Yeah.
We'll put the link somewhere if you haven't read it. It's interesting. There's some, but this is this is super related. They got asked, are there any champions you agreed to never release? And they said no. We hope to release every champion someday. So for people who ask me, like, as if I fucking know anything, there's the actual answer right there.
There's like a shit ton of champions, aren't there?
140 or 130, I think.
Oh my god. Okay.
So many.
Content for a while.
Yeah. Well, that's what, like, that's a beautiful thing. Like, think about how it is from a like game development point. Just like how Hearthstone, you had all of these resources, to pull from World of Warcraft. They have a full world already written for them. Like, that's been made. So they can they have this lore to pull from. They're like, yeah, we want to come out with this region and we can highlight this, battle between X and Y. So we want to pull Nocturne now and things like that. Like, it's so brilliant. It's so awesome.
Do you consider like analogous to like a class in Hearthstone? Would you consider that to be like a champion duo, or would you consider it to be like a region duo?
It really depends. Usually, there's a lot of there's when the game was first coming out, there was a lot of I forgot there was the website that was doing it, but they had like Runeterra how it corresponds to Magic colors, and there was one that was
Yeah, it was
Runeterra how it
Mobalytics,
corresponds to and how it corresponds to
Hearthstone
not
champs.
champions. What
Heroes.
are they?
Yeah,
Heroes and Hearthstone.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like Runeterra, Magic has had 5 colors forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now I guess you could consider colorless a 6th color, but
Yeah.
Runeterra is like out the gate has what, like 9 or something? Like it's the combinations are kind of endless, what you can actually pull off.
Yeah, I think it's the more, because when I originally thought, I'm like, oh, okay, well, Demasia's white and Ionia is blue, and
that makes sense in my brain.
Right, that makes sense.
And Shadow Isles is black.
Shadow Isles, exactly. Yeah. But it's kind. I mean, it's not a direct correlation, right? Like it's
no.
You have to do some wiggle room, and the sort of region identity, I think, isn't fully fleshed out. I think that they had the direction for what they've done in the first 3 sets, and that I think that may morph and change and be added onto. But I also don't necessarily think that even like regions don't even necessarily line up to colors in Magic, like not even like specific colors, but like to the concept of colors in Magic, or in the same way that I don't think heroes line up to colors in Magic in Hearthstone.
Not even close.
It's really not close in Hearthstone, because you're like very much limited to, you only can play those cards, right? And like you're only running a monocolored effectively deck in Hearthstone too.
It's one of my biggest pet peeves about Hearthstone, but they actually Team 5 has changed quite a bit, and their direction now is a lot more, they're open to things and ideas and changing stuff. And I think originally, the Ben Brode team was a lot more cautious. Like it's like they stumbled on something so popular and they were like, we don't want to screw it up, so we don't
very risk averse.
But now it's like the latest set is just insane, and we've got dual class cards and all this stuff, so it's like you're starting to kind of see that ability to play the game a little bit more like, I want to craft the game to be exactly how I want it to be, instead of being like forced into this box of like, I am priest, these are what priest heals, and like removes, that's what they do. It's a little bit more like, now I could be aggressive as a priest, which has always been like a meme, like, oh, I'm aggro priest. So, but it's like this game, it's like already just based on just the mechanic of the game itself, and the regions and everything like that, and the fact that the champions are a huge part of what your strategy is. It's already like built in that there's got to be like in the high hundreds of combinations you can do here. 8 regions. They just said
8 regions. But I mean, like the thing is like it's I think it's bordering on incalculable, right? Because like you can not only have region combinations and champion combinations, but you can have number of champion combinations, right? Because it's like, you don't necessarily have to run 3 Gangplanks and 3 Dravens, right? You can run 2 Gangplanks, 2 Dravens, and 2 Darius. And you can run 1 of 6. You can run no champions. You can run a non-6 number. Like, technically,
I mean, been a non-champion like meta deck? Wow.
There's actually a lot of super aggressive non-champion decks as well.
There was for a while a Tilt Over and Zon Noxus burn deck that was no champions, that was just literally as aggro go face as possible, and it like some decks ran Teemo as the only champion.
Good ones.
The good ones ran Teemo, but like even something like Draven, like a 3-drop was just too expensive. Excuse me, for the deck.
So this is like a red deck win style deck.
Yes, exactly like that.
Put a bunch of crap down, hit your face with it, and then finish you off with
play things that you don't care about that will do like on average 1.5 damage when you play them, and count to 20.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, when the game first came out, one of the most oppressive control decks had no champions either. It was the Shadow Isles Freljord one that had Ledros as its win con, which isn't a champion, but he plays kind of like one. No champions, all removal, and there were like 2 in-game bombs.
I'm playing I've been playing the Jay Medarda Miracle Rogue-esque deck. I love that deck so much.
I love Jay
No
Medarda.
champions. No champions. Discover the unknown. Discover the unknown. Discover the unknown.
It's one of my favorite bad cards. Oh, it's so good.
That deck is sweet, though. I don't care what anyone
It is
says.
sweet.
It needs a little bit of
It is
refinement and maybe like another card to like tie it together. But the deck is fucking sweet. I love it. But let's see, where are we on time? Okay, we're actually getting kind of close. So I wanted to talk about one other thing from the AMA, and then we'll quickly go through your guys' hot takes. And by your guys, I mean the community's hot takes that you guys tweeted at us about the new set. And now that we've had a little bit of time to digest the set, it's going to be fun, I think, to look back at what we thought. So one other thing, it's actually two things, but it ties together. So basically, they were asked about, like, what do you think about the meta and, like, about the expansion and what the meta was. And basically, you know, when they originally released LOR, they said, we have a goal of having 10 meta decks, right? And I remember we talked about this on one of the earlier episodes. And, you know, Dovadigas went on to say that since the launch of LOR, we've repeatedly seen metagames that have 20, 25, 30, and up to 35 different decks that are competitively viable. And I blame Saucy for at least a quarter of those decks that go on to be competitively viable. And then the other sort of tie-in to that, and we'll answer sort of what competitively viable means or doesn't mean. They were also asked what their favorite and least favorite things about the LOR community are. And to paraphrase and go to one of the things that Dovadiga said it was the least favorite aspect, says the least favorite aspect is the hyperbolic language the community sometimes uses when talking about the metagame, segregating decks that have 52% win rates as playable or S tier, and decks that have 50% win rates as tier 2, tier 3, or even unplayable. It thinks the language and thought patterns lead to erroneous idea that there are a smaller number of decks in the LOR metagame when the reality is that there are 20 to 35 decks that have win rates between 47 and 53%. So that kind of really, I mean, for what it's worth, this is not just an LOR thing. It is a card game. It's a game thing, right?
Yeah, this is how games work.
This is how
but
people
card
work.
games are way more polarizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see it in Magic, we see it in Hearthstone, and it's exactly like, it's true. Someone will say that this deck is S tier, and another deck that is literally 2% less win rate is tier 3, I'm just like,
trash.
why is this?
Can't play that.
Like, yeah, I'm like, why can't I not play this deck that's literally in a like 10,000 game spread, 2% less good?
Yeah, I
mean, you could build a career on playing that deck, though, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone, like, not everybody wants to tune in to the guy who's playing what everyone considers the tippy top tier deck. Because, in a way, if you do play that deck, people go, well, I mean, you're on easy mode.
No skill. This one's no skill. Anyone can play that.
Yeah.
Sure. Like right now in Hearthstone, if you look at HS Replay, which is like the mobalytics thing for Hearthstone, basically.
Yeah.
The number one deck on the site is Libram Paladin, but everybody knows that that's absolutely wrong, and it's not the best deck you can play. It's just the deck that, like, if you're rank 20, it easy modes you to like rank 15.
I can confirm that is true. I can confirm that is true. It does play itself.
Yeah, it's just you put the minions down and then you buff the minions and you go.
Yep.
But if you look at like all the grandmaster players and the top tier guys, they're all playing this like tempo mage that when you look at it, like, how does this even win? Because there's like 4 minions in the whole deck.
Yeah, it's like dog shit.
Every spell is 1 mana, and you know it's like, oh no, it's this spell. This, if you play this right, it blows everybody out of the water. And I think that's like the thing that card players who aren't necessarily tippy top tier can't really see, is that a deck is not necessarily the best because, you know, bad players can win with it. The deck is really the best when it's like, if you pilot it properly, it will win more of the time than any other deck.
I think that's one thing I really do enjoy about specifically Legend of Runeterra is like archetypes and decks you're comfortable with. Like, playing a deck that you are comfortable with really well can win you more games than just playing a good deck that you're not good at. So like, it's no secret I am not an aggro player. I'm not great at. I can't play like that burn deck.
Yeah.
When it was the best deck for a while, I had like a 38% win rate with it because I'm a control player. I'm thinking, oh, I need to trade into this guy because what if it's suddenly scary?
Right.
Like I don't have the go face mentality. But I could play something like War Mother's Call, and it could be like a bad deck at the time in the quotes, but I could have like an 80% win rate just because I'm so comfortable with that archetype.
Well, I mean, we all know that every player that plays and posts on Twitter has a 90% win rate with their
Everyone on Twitter has a 90% win rate.
It's really weird that there's so few losses going on
oh, Twitch chat has never lost a game.
No, they never lost a game. They never misplayed. They always know exactly how much mana they have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, always. They've never made a mistake and told me to block with my. Yeah, there was one game the other day. I'm playing Undying Jack the Winner, and someone's like, "Why didn't you block with your Cursed Keeper?" I'm like, "It literally says cannot block on the card." I'm like, I zoomed in on it.
I know.
I'm like, it says can't block on the card. He's like, misplay. You should have blocked. You could have prevented lethal. I'm like, eat shit. You can't block with it. It says on the card.
I remember I was there watching that, and I had it on in the background, and you go, why didn't I block with my Cursed Keeper? And I'm like, oh, I got to see this. And you just zoomed in on the card and just stared at the camera. It's like
literally says can't block.
RTFC, the classic Magic mantra. Read the fucking cards. So good. But yeah, I mean, just to like, there's so much. And again, this was another thing that we talked about on an earlier episode. Again, I believe this was also from Dovadigas in regards to like streamers and Mobalytics specifically, and like seeing these win rates and whatnot is like, it kind of creates its own echo chamber or vicious cycle or whatever you want to call it, where like, oh, Twitch chat sees streamer play deck, streamer does good with deck, they play deck. Now the meta is literally being warped by this player because there was 3,000 people watching, and there's now 3,000 additional copies of Zephyr Sage combo on the ladder. So yes, it does look like it has a better win rate or a worse win rate than it should, because you've got an influx of players playing at various skill levels all playing this deck, and it's like, oh my god, the meta is just swamped with this thing. There's nothing but this. And if you see it over and over again, you assume it's good, right? Because like,
who would be playing
you're
all these
playing
bad
it for a reason, right? It's like, okay, so and it just like, you get locked into this thing that's not evidence-based, which is why I really love the HS replay HS replay that makes Hearthstone deck tracker. Like, I love that because it tracks so well, and Mobalytics is getting to the point where the match history is getting better, but it's not the same. Like, HS replay has it like fucking perfected.
Well, they've got the plug-in with the actual tool and stuff, right? Which I don't know, is there something like that for Runeterrable yet?
Yeah, sort of Mobalytics has it. Yeah, Mobalytics has one, but it is not the same level. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely check that out for sure.
It's a little more quirky. It's
not the same level.
Streaming.
Like, I have no idea what my actual stats are. I one thing I would love is a
90% win rate.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's what your stats are for sure.
Yeah.
I would love it if a game had that built into it.
Yeah.
Honestly. And Runeterrable has shown me lots of great ideas. Let's keep it going, guys. I think it could be the first game that just like throws the tracker into the game.
Well, I think I think they actually did mention that in the AMA or something similar to that, where they're like I think the TLDR was they're partnering with these companies, and they like working with them, and like they don't want to necessarily tread on what they're doing, or they didn't even say it like that. They said they don't want to duplicate the efforts of what they're doing, and like
it is a tricky thing because you don't want to you essentially take away a potential job connected to your game if you do all that stuff in-house.
Yeah,
right?
and it frees up development space and all that. So it's
like World of Warcraft letting people just make mods like crazy was
for
like,
everything.
such a good thing for that game, ultimately.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why Dota exists.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
can do that.
Yep.
Yeah. You want to get into some hot takes?
Yeah,
Logan?
I do. Okay, so we've got some hot takes. You guys and gals and everyone else tweeted at us. We were asking for your hot takes for Call of the Mountain, and there's some good ones.
This
so
was back on August 21st.
yeah, so before the set came out. So I, of course, replied with Whimsy is not broken. That was one. Leona is not the best champ in the set, and Emusives is tier 1. Those are my 3 hot takes. Whimsy definitely not broken. Sees very little to no play.
Yeah.
Leona, you could make the argument that Leona is the best champ in the set, but it is not as strong of an argument as people were leading us to believe. I think literally every champ that was released has an argument to it. Like Diana, sick. Trundle, way better than I thought, and also sick. Asol, I mean, Asol is Asol, right?
Nocturne's seeing a lot of high ladder finishes.
Nocturne, sick.
Yeah.
So
and Emusives?
Zinc Elemental hit Masters with Emusive, so therefore literally tier 1. So shout outs to Zinc for doing that. So my hot takes were all correct, by the way. We also had Charmer, another friend of the show, say Bedaz Ezreal, aka Ezreal plus gems, will be a tier 1 deck. We saw it get second place at Giant Slayer Fight Night.
About, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you generate a bunch of gems and then you them and burst them down.
Honestly, I think there are under 5 people in the world right now that can play that to maximum efficiency right now.
I actually won a lot of games on ladder with it, but
it's good.
Yeah, I also lost a lot of games where I was like, I never killed enough things, I guess, so I never leveled up Ezreal, and then I just suddenly was dead. Like there was a lot of times where I just completely screwed up everything. So
yeah, it's tough.
It's a hard one to pilot.
Yeah. We had Eric Thomas, friend of the podcast as well, saying Lulu plus Fizz equals really good. I don't know if we've seen that one really happen yet.
It's not good.
No.
I have not seen that.
Mistwraith deck plus Nocturne equals better Mistwraith deck. I don't know if we've seen that either. And then Leona Yasuo, well, it has Yasuo in it, so therefore it's bad.
So it's bad, yeah.
So Eric, I think you might be 0 for 3 on that one, but
0 for 3.
One of my
you would have left
is
Yasuo out.
But one of my decks is the Leona Yasuo deck. And
okay.
When it happens, it's insane.
Yeah.
When you're stunning things and then Yasuo's killing them, it's really dope.
So when you draw all of your champions,
when everything goes exactly right,
that's
insane.
like man, and it was on the very last turn that he killed me. Can you believe it? It's like, man, I found my keys in the last place I looked every single time. It's crazy.
I made a deck. The deck I hit platinum with was a Diana Leona deck that I made, and I called it Better Yasuo deck, or the best Yasuo deck. And I put Yasuo as the actual deck portrait. And people are like, whoa, what's this Yasuo deck? I'm like, it's the best Yasuo deck you can play because he's not in the deck.
So good. Okay, we had Hidden Backpack on Twitter saying Nightfall is going to be one of the best archetypes and will need a nerf. Risen Mist is going to surprise everyone. Taric and Gems will do nothing. Which one is Risen Mist? Oh, Risen Mist is the one that creates the Mistwraith.
Yeah.
Okay. So surprise everyone. I don't. That's a tough one to quantify. Nightfall is going to be one of the best.
Is very good.
Yeah, one of the best archetypes. Yeah.
I looked up on Mobalytics like what the highest ranked players are playing, and a lot of them were playing just the pure Nightfall aggro.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. It's definitely.
Which I found difficult to play though because I was like, everything has Nightfall, so therefore nothing has Nightfall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean? Or half of your spells don't have Nightfall. Right.
Yeah. Like you play things just to activate the Nightfall. The next thing you play, you just have to figure out which order is better. So
yeah.
That's where the skill comes in.
Nick Makes Plays actually hit rank 1 on both NA and EU ladder playing the Nightfall deck, and
that's the deck I copied it from him.
Yeah, he I don't want to spoil anything, but he may or may not be coming on an episode of the podcast soon. But he was saying on his stream that like it's deceptively one of the hardest decks to play because it
is hard to play.
seems like it would be. Oh, it's just a face aggro deck, right? Like just go face forehead, and it's like it's actually not. Like there's so much like thinking that you need to do, and like where do you play the Pale Cascade? Like what spells are you playing without Nightfall to activate your Nightfall and actually get value? Like
there's like a couple of ways to generate it. So there's like the Fading Memories, and then there's the what is it? The 1 mana 2/1 that makes a thing that makes your next
makes the
Nightfall
Dust
cheaper.
Petal or whatever it's called.
You get a couple of those things going, and then you can kind of chain them.
Yeah.
But the first time I played it, I was like, I don't know which one of these things to cast first and not get this effect.
Yep. I'm just like, I got all Nightfall cards. I guess I'm just not going to play anything.
Pass the turn.
Yeah.
8 turns in a row.
Yeah. Guess I died.
Yep.
Yes, I died.
That's one of those things that where like a newer player, I look at it, I'm like, I can't play this without getting the Nightfall value.
Exactly. I mean,
Imagine not getting value.
I look at it as not a new player, and I'm like, I'd rather die than not get value.
Yeah. I'll just die instead of making this blocker.
Yes, I'll die. I'm never playing the 2/3. I'm never playing the 2/3 for 2 without elusive. Let me tell you that.
God, no! I'd rather die.
Dumb.
I'm certainly not playing that card.
I'll take lethal.
Yeah, I'll take lethal for 400, Alex. And then Tarek and Gems will do nothing. Nothing is a strong word, but you're not far off. So I'll give that a B. I'll give it a B+ for hot takes.
Yep.
Okay, so Michael Wilson on Twitter says the cards shown look really fun and strong, but it won't make a strong enough archetype to unseat the current big boys of the meta. If anything, the current meta top decks will cherry pick the best stuff and become even more degenerate. I will say that Twisted Fate Swain still very much a top meta deck, and also there are the old boys, as you called them, or the big boys of the meta are a lot of them are still there, but also Aesol ramp decks are actual tier 1 and Nightfall is tier 1, so definitely have unseated at least in some ways.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because a lot of all of the good decks that were tier 1 before are still tier 1, but now we've added all these other tier 1 decks. Like Jinx Draven Discard, still insanely good.
Yeah.
People have been doing really well with Deep because playing gigantic things on turn 4, still good.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's the way you want an expansion to work, right? You want
Mm-hmm.
new stuff to be available, but you don't necessarily want to make it so that. I think it was in the AMA. They said we don't want people's favorite cards to become unplayable ever. And there you go. That's the way to do it, right?
Yep.
When you introduce a new set of cards, you should add new archetypes, not just
remove all the other ones.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which is really I mean, that's one of the benefits I think of adding, effectively a new color or new class is like you are literally able to build new decks, not just add on to like, now all the good red cards are in, so now you're getting rid of your old red cards and you're playing these ones. It's like, nope, you can just play a Targon deck now, which you couldn't. Couldn't play before.
This would happen in Hearthstone all the time, by the way. I'm sure Saucy remembers this. Like an expansion would come out, and then you're like, yeah, but none of the new archetypes are better than the stuff we were already doing.
Yeah.
So why
we
even
have 3 playable cards in the whole new set.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it is with Magic too.
My Reno Priest, and I guess now it's better.
I've added 1 card, new deck.
Well, yeah. I mean, Hearthstone. I think Hearthstone, for whatever reason, followed the same sort of design philosophy of Magic of like, hey, we need bad cards in the set because because we need them.
You need to have something that makes these cards good. How could these cards be good unless there's bad cards?
Right. You can't have darkness without the light, right?
Just ask Leona Diana.
Exactly. Okay. Runeterra Unhinged tweeted out, and the Saucy will like this one. The fact that Leona was announced and everyone got excited for Yasuo shows that there's a serious problem with Leona. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I think Leona kind of did pan out though. Leona is pretty good.
She's great.
Yasuo not so much. Okay, Lucas Story on Twitter says Leona is just easy mode Swain. I don't really buy that one.
Really well together.
They do work well together. But I don't know if I would consider them analogous though. I don't know if I would even really.
What is
they have?
Swain is the one that when you hit the Nexus, you deal an extra 3 or something.
You deal extra 3, and then when he's flipped, if you deal direct Nexus damage, it stuns their biggest unit.
Okay, so basically they I can see how they work.
Yeah, it's kind of similar, but they're different enough. I don't know if I would pass that one. I don't know if I'd pass that that hot take.
Like basically the Leona is supposed to be opening the door for Swain to be able to swing, and then
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They
Swain
work.
has fearsome.
Yeah, they work well together for sure, but I don't know if I would call one. I don't know if I'd call Leona easy mode Swain. So that's
they seem like they're just totally different.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they literally have
like 2 different cards.
Yeah, they literally have the same effect as part of what they do, but that's like saying Mystic Shot is just easy mode. Get excited, which is kind of true, but also I don't know if I would ever say that. Okay. Can's comments on Twitter says Targon SI Daybreak / Nightfall will be the best cheese deck there is, always procking some time of day. I think that's true, except for the part where you said cheese. Like, it is actually just a good deck.
It's very good and a lot more difficult to play than any of us expected.
Yeah. I think that is accidentally a good hot take because I don't think it was meant in that way. But okay, at Katana, but K4T4N4 on Twitter says Tarek plus Playful Trickster. Now I'm sad. In a control shell will be a tier 1 deck, Twisted Fate. So that one obviously got debunked because they changed the card, but not your fault. So we'll give you a pass by default. Twisted Fate and or Gangplank as the other champ. Fizz, yeah. Sad, but unfortunately was not a hot take because they nerfed it. And the last one that we have here is Wargross. It says Daybreak is super overrated. It doesn't leave you with options of play and loosely and loses to the gameplay being linear. That really hasn't panned out. Daybreak has actually been pretty good. And I think it's good because a lot of the cards aren't like, well, if you don't have Daybreak, these are useless. They're just like, you're just playing a 1-mana 2/2 anyway, and sometimes it's a 1-mana 3/3. Leona also, like, it's not that hard to play. Yeah, just well statted, and Ravoon certainly
you put that 5-mana 5/5 down, and then you're just like, all my cards are insane.
Yeah, it turns on everything. So I don't know if I'd call that. I think that I don't know if I'd pass that one either. But thank you everyone again for submitting those. That was a really fun exercise. Maybe we can do some more of that stuff in the future. It was just really fun to get all the responses and talk about them on the show.
Yeah,
but
we'll do more often the Runeterrable roasts chat.
Yeah, tweet at us to get completely roasted on the show. But yes, of course you can follow us on Twitter at Runeterrable on Twitter. But Saucy, we are just about out of time here, so I want to thank our guest Willie Dills for coming on and chatting with us. It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, it's great talking to you guys. Talking about this new game. It's like I said, this is the exciting time when you're just kind of discovering all this hot new stuff. And it's funny, a lot of things you guys were saying, I was like, I don't know what that is, but surprisingly, I did know a lot of it. And so I feel like this is a good time if someone's interested in this game. This is like the time to do it, right? Because the game is still in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a digestible amount of cards right now because if what they say is true, and we have every champion eventually. That was one of my issues with Magic when I got into it was the just like the wall I had to climb was huge.
Yep.
And it was very intimidating to me. And like Runeterra feels very much like, there's a kiddie pool here you can get into first, and then you go into the deep end.
Yep.
So
absolutely. Well, Willie, where can people find you on the internet and elsewhere when you're not here chatting with the other bearded
I'll
boomers?
be here one day again. But for now, if you guys want to check me out on Twitter, I'm at Willie Dills, and twitch.tv/Willie Dills is where I stream mostly Hearthstone, but I have been now streaming some Runeterra. And I also stream whatever I feel like playing because I'm not a freaking robot.
Not beholden.
Guys the other night, so
Nice.
So fun. Saucy, where can people find you when you're not here?
Yeah, you can just find all of my content on my website, saucymailman.com. I stream on Twitch and YouTube and all the places. I'm just Saucy Mailman everywhere. I've got a lot of, I'm in the process of making some more guides. I've got a budget Dragons deck coming out this week with guide, because dragons.
Because of Aurelian Soul.
But you can find me on Twitter at @the_Blevins on Twitter, and you can just find me on Twitch without the underscore. That's also where the show is streamed live on Wednesdays. But you can also find the show on Twitter again at Runeterrable. You can go to runeterrable.com. You can go to DeckPics.Live. You can go to discord.me/Runeterrable Radio, which is where we have a vibrant and growing community. It is just an absolute pleasure with everyone there. Just so much going on. And also, Saucy, we had our soft launch. Our Patreon is live.
Yeah, we got the new... Yep.
/Runeterrable Radio.
Yep. So Blevins and I have been way overworking it. We made it. Our spreadsheet was way too confusing, so we simplified it quite a bit. We had originally like 20 levels of all this nonsense.
Yeah, we had a lot of levels.
Patreon exists. Big thing I wanted to do is thank you for everyone who's asked us for a Patreon. It's something we didn't even think about. Doing. So thank you for the people who want to support the show. Again, it's just patreon.com/Runeterrable Radio. And yeah, we launched that today without telling anyone.
Soft launch.
But now you know.
Yes, and also I will say, and I won't count this as the actual shout out, but very first patron, Cosign Joe, the on top of it for everything. So shout outs to you, Cosign. This won't count towards your actual shout out on a show. This is a bonus because you're number one. You are the number one.
You get a bonus.
You get a bonus shout out. As well as all the other stuff on page, and you can find out what Cosign has gotten over at patreon.com/Runeterrable Radio. But thank you everyone for listening and watching. Again, huge shout outs to Willie Dills for coming on the show and hanging out with us. It was awesome. But for Willie, for Saucy, I am Blevins, and we'll be back next week to talk about some more Legends of Runeterra. See ya!